everybody. I'm Brittany Lewis, a breaking news reporter here at Forbes. Joining me now is my Forbes colleague, staff writer Zach Everson. Zach, thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me back to take yet another look at the president's crypto ventures.
And you and I have been talking a lot about President Trump's crypto ventures, particularly because, as you and I have discussed every single time, he went from crypto skeptic back in his first term to now full throated crypto enthusiast. And our colleague Dan Alexander reported most of President Trump's net worth right now is due to his crypto empire, $3.3 billion of his over $5 billion fortune. And you're reporting on how much he's made so far from one crypto firm, World Liberty Financial. So to start off the conversation, talk to us about World Liberty Financial.
World Liberty Financial is a decentralized finance venture that he launched in September of last year, along with Zach Witikoff, Steve Witikoff's son. Steve Witikoff is involved in it as well. He is a longtime friend of Trump's, who is also currently his Middle East envoy. What they did behind this is that decentralized finance, it sells tokens. People who buy the tokens then get to control and vote on what the entity does. It's somewhat similar to having like a co-op or a condo board. So these people bought into it. These tokens are not resellable. So people who bought this did it just to be able to control what this venture does. Since then, it has also launched a stable coin, which is a cryptocurrency pegged to the dollar that is supposed to be backed up by U.S. Treasuries and other short-term assets.
And so, how specifically is President Trump involved in this whole thing?
He is listed as its inspiration, or as I like to say, its muse, apparently. He is also the chief crypto advocate, although the website has all sorts of other disclaimers saying, like, this isn't anything to do with politics, this isn't government. But if you look at the website, the top picture is, the top half of the website is 50% him. So, clearly something he's very involved in. And then Don Jr., Eric, and Barron are also listed on the website as some of the key figures in the enterprise.
And so, you're also reporting that he's made tens of millions of dollars from World Liberty Financial. Give us the specific number and exactly how is he raking in that type of cash?
So, on a financial disclosure that he released last Friday, it reported that he made $57.4 million from the venture. And it looks like that's just for 2024. So we're not even looking everything about the stablecoin. That didn't come out to this year. So that's not even part of that. This is just the early going of that. And it's largely transaction fees and people said buying this token and his proceeds from those sales. He's entitled to about 75% of the proceeds from token sales, according to the fine print on the website.
I mean, that's just a huge number. And it does seem I want to talk about the timing because, as you and I have talked about before, President Trump went from essentially saying cryptocurrency is based on thin air. He didn't believe it was real money. And now he said that he is the first crypto president. Is it a coincidence that he's now fully backing crypto? He says, I'm all in on crypto. He's bullish on cryptocurrency. Is it a coincidence that he's bringing in millions from it? And I mean, technically billions overall, according to Dan Alexander's reporting.
I don't think there are many coincidences out there when Donald Trump's presidential agenda matches his business interest. We've seen this time and time again. There's really two advantages for him being so pro crypto. The first is obviously he's realized he can make money from this. It might be made out of thin air, but that thin air can put some real profits into his pocket. The other angle is that the crypto industry was not pleased with the Biden administration, and by extension, Kamala Harris, for regulating it so heavily. So the crypto, Donald Trump certainly saw that by being pro crypto, he could get backing from some very wealthy backers in Silicon Valley, and that's exactly what happened. So he's made money off the crypto deal, and he's also brought in a lot of campaign support by being pro crypto as well. So I mean, not a bad political or business play from him either way.
And now I want to look back a little closer at World Liberty Financial because they're involved in a $2 billion crypto deal with a UAE backed firm. Talk to us about that deal.
Yeah, this was announced a couple weeks ago in that there is a UAE backed financial firm that was going to invest in Binance, the Bitcoin, the crypto exchange. And to do it though, instead of using US dollars or another traditional currency, they were going to do it in USD1, which is the name of World Liberty Financial Stablecoin. So they were essentially going to buy the stablecoin, give World Liberty money to actual, it's like be more specific than just money as we talk about this, actual currency, traditional currency, and using that, get the $2 billion that it would then go ahead and invest in uh in Binance here. So it would give the World Liberty Financial Endeavor a lot of money, a lot of reserves, just to kind of sit on and invest and hopefully be able to make more money. Kind of how a traditional bank operates by taking deposits, making out loans, and hoping that the money you're able to invest the deposits in will be more than what you can, you will be more than what you're going to pay out.
And so, correct me if I'm wrong. So, essentially, what this deal is a UAE backed firm is giving money to a company that President Trump has financial ties with.
Yeah, yeah, that's correct. But Binance is not affiliated with Trump, but it is a crypto exchange on which his stable coin is traded.
Okay, so I'm assuming that this has received plenty of criticism. I mean, I've seen it myself. What is that criticism?
Yeah, it's falling along partisan lines. It's the Genius Act, which is going through the Senate. I believe they're actually supposed to vote on it today. Um, was gonna pro crypto bill, and it was gonna put in some standards for stablecoin, which is what the industry wants. The industry wants to be regulated. They just want to make sure it's the right regulations, that they're pretty light and still allows them a lot of flexibility, but will hopefully give Americans enough confidence to start investing more frequently in this sort of stuff. So news about this deal came out, and Trump just a lot of reports about how Trump's profiting off crypto, and so some Democrats who may have been okay with this crypto legislation in the first place backed off it and went ahead and opposed it. Doesn't look like it's going to matter in the Senate. Looks like it still is going to pass. But Senator Jeff Merkley from Oregon did introduce a bill that would prevent presidents, vice presidents, and other senior officials from profiting off of stablecoins. So that bill is currently pending. Not sure what's going to happen with it.
And does World Liberty Financial, does that company profit directly from President Trump's involvement?
I mean, the more money it brings in, the more it stands to make. The Trump's own 60% of it. They get 75% of token sales, but that leaves 25% that go to other people involved in the company. We don't know exactly how they're breaking down the sales from the USD1 stablecoin when they get fees from that, but it stands to reason that the other people all who are involved in this project will all make more money the more of that coin that goes into circulation.
And going back to this enormous $2 billion deal, are foreign businesses allowed to pay a venture that the president is somehow involved in financially and has a financial stake in? I mean, what are the rules surrounding that?
Who knows? The foreign emoluments clause went up before the Supreme Court in the last in his first term. They, and that is specifically says that the U.S. president is not allowed to accept gifts or other emoluments from foreign governments. But how exactly that gets defined, we don't know. The courts were asked to do that in the first term. 4 years was not enough time to do it. In fact, it never even got to the point where the courts were debating it on the merit. They were still looking at who had standing to sue. There were some cases before the Supreme Court. Trump lost. Those cases got tossed as moot. So we're back to the beginning again on that. So don't really know. And I have not seen any cases filed this term yet either on the emoluments clause. So we may go through another 4-year term here and have it still be a mystery whether or not any of this is legal.
Whenever you and I have conversations about President Trump's business ventures and how he's making money fits into his policy overall, I'm curious how you see this, how you see him making millions of dollars from a crypto venture. How do you see that fitting into his second term? I mean, what's this piece of the puzzle really look like?
Oh, it fits in beautifully. He's pushing himself out there as America's pro crypto president. He's looking at policies where he wants to make America the crypto capital of the world. And, he's out there with a crypto venture that you can support. And other people have, World Liberty has struck a deal with the Pakistani government where it's going to work on helping them to work with the blockchain. So Yeah, it's great. There's a lot of synergies going on between the Trump administration and the Trump organization, and this just happens to be one of the bigger ones. You know, as you mentioned at the beginning, we've talked about crypto several times recently. We haven't talked about hotel guests because, yeah, there's still some conflicts over who's going to his businesses and properties, but the amount of money involved is just, seems inconsequential compared to what he's bringing in from crypto these days.
Zach, and I know this was covered in President Trump's first term. We're talking about it now. How have you seen, as someone who's been covering the president and his businesses, how have you seen his relationship with his businesses change from term one to term two? Because to me, and our conversations between you and I, between me and Dan Alexander, it feels like there was more of an effort to kind of toe an ethical line in term one versus term two. Is that something you agree with?
Oh, definitely, definitely. I mean, the lesson that Trump learned from his first time in office was that he left money on the table. They don't care this time. One of the things that I looked at was the his online retail website, trumpstore.com. That website, it's existed for well over a decade. It was kind of dormant at the beginning of his first term. A couple years in, they brought it in, and it was just selling golf merchandise. There was nothing presidential at all in it. At one point, they did roll out some. It was like a soap set that had the White House on it. Got reported about, and they withdrew it from the market. This time, they don't care. I mean, there's all sorts of presidential themed products on there. There's the presidential gold note. They've got out there the meme coin, World Liberty Financial. I mean, it is just blatant, the profiteering that they're looking from this time. And, they will give you the same answers that the president can't have any conflicts of interest, which is correct. They will say, oh, it's in a trust. His kids manage it well, as we've discussed. He's the sole donor to the trust. He's the sole beneficiary. It's revocable. He can get money from it at any time. Don Jr. is the trustee. I mean, that is just some window dressing there. So yeah, it's they honestly, it does not look like they particularly care.
And I'm sure you've asked them, I'm sure other reporters have asked them or brought up that point when they say no conflict of interest. Well, that all roads lead back to Donald Trump, the president himself, when it comes to that revocable trust. What's the answer to that?
Yeah, they really haven't come forward with an answer to that one at all. So it was a very similar explanation they gave when New Jersey looked into revoking his liquor licenses from his clubs there. The New Jersey state law doesn't allow somebody who's been convicted of some crimes to hold a liquor license. And the Trump organization's retort was that, oh, he doesn't hold the liquor license. Well, I went back and looking through Trump's own financial disclosures and his own testimony in some cases, you can see that through a web of about 5 or 6 companies in the trust, he is the sole beneficiary of these. So the liquor licenses aren't in his name, but they are, he is the sole beneficiary of the company that owns them. We did not hear any response back after that from the White House. And the state of New Jersey did not buy the Trump's explanation. They looked into that reporting, saw that, we're able to do their own investigation, saw the facts laid out there, and said that, yes, he is the beneficiary here. So, that whole argument doesn't really seem to hold up to water, and they haven't, to the best of my knowledge, put forth a response when, all of that is pointed out.
Well, Zach, I always appreciate your reporting. Thanks for the conversation. I hope to have another one soon.
My pleasure. I'm sure he'll have some new products for us to discuss right quick.